dazzling world of fantasy and adventure.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
A world where anything seems possible and nothing is what it seems.
Everything I've done for you. I move the stars for no one.
The world of Labyrinth.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
You will suffer an eternity for this.
I don't know. Where are you going to put those hands when you got Jennifer Connelly on? You might want to watch it because this movie can be creepy and so can some of the things in it. But we are joined this week by Ken from Sledgehammer Horror as we are going to talk about Labyrinth. And Ken, we're going to get right into it. What is your first memory of this movie and what do you think about it?
Oh man, I love this movie. I just want to start off by saying that. Watched it so much as a kid. Me and my kid sister. This is a movie that we watch quite often because I do feel it is horror adjacent. And obviously being a big horror fan, especially as a kid, seeing her brother get taken and all these amazing things that follow and, laughing too, seeing that, did you say hello? No, I said hello, but that's close enough, and
Hello.
she chose down, stuff like that was always like super creepy to me. And I still to this day have some irrational fear that somewhere out there's a bog of eternal stench I might accidentally step in one day and never be able to rid myself. But my earliest memory is probably, like I said, just watching it with my little sister. And it's still to this day probably my favorite fantasy movie.
Right on. Now, Kev, did you grow up with this one? What was your first memory of this?
Yeah, I went to go see this in the theater. My mom took me to go see it, and holy cow, like it changed my life forever. Like, first of all, that was the first time I'd ever seen a man with long hair. So I was very confused why the Goblin King was a queen. And so my mom had to explain that to me for a bit. Like I was 6. So, and I fell in love with it instantly. Like David Bowie was my favorite musician from then on there. Like my daughter was my daughter was born 6 days after he died. So it was like, I don't know. I just always really liked Bowie. Got the soundtrack when I was in high school, when I found the CD, listened to it all the time. I've got it on my Spotify set list. Like, I love Bowie, and I've seen this movie more times than I have follicles of hair on my head. So,
yeah,
damn, that's not too many.
Wait! I've got a video tonight, so kind of shows the bald spots missing.
All right, my memory of this is I know I saw it as a kid. I don't think I saw it in theaters. I'm pretty sure it was a video store rental. And that's about the extent of it because I haven't seen this movie in so long. The reason why it's in even my physical media collection is because it's one of my wife's favorite movies, that and like Dark Crystal. And so I got like the 30th anniversary edition. I got like the nice little fancy Digibook Blu-ray from a few years ago. Oops.
Ooh.
And I know Shout Factory's got a 4K out with very fancy editions that are completely overpriced, but that being said, I always liked this movie and I would watch it throughout the years, but it always will just be like, oh, hey, it's on TV. All right, cool. I'll put it on. And I would always remember a scene or two, but like my memory is just kind of basic. Like I know I saw it on VHS tape, but it never really stood out for me. It actually works better for me now because I don't have much from memory from childhood. So I don't have the nostalgia glasses that a lot of people might do.
Sure.
But that being said, that's how we introduce ourselves around here, everybody. Welcome to 0 Point Reviews, where we talk about the good, the bad, and then we judge these movies. And sometimes we have to judge each other because a few weeks ago we had to do Happy Time Murders and we followed it up with the original Muppet movie to palate cleanse us. And now we're right back on track with Henson Month. And Kevin, let's judge this thing and like, share, and subscribe out there, everybody.
Did I even drop an F-bomb last week when we did the Muppet Show?
Neither of us did.
I didn't think so. Wow, we actually did a kid-friendly show.
Yeah, when I go to do the podcast version of it, I actually can label that as clean for the first time ever in our show's history. No swearing, no innuendos, no none of that.
That's awesome.
None of that here tonight. I did not get a picture of David Bowie's bulge. I was gonna.
It's burned in all our memories, man. Like that thing ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, it's seared into my soul, and I had to explain that to my wife. Like, for being a straight man, like I am very familiar with the male genitalia because of Labyrinth. Like David Bowie, was like, hey, look,
that should have won the Oscar for best supporting actor, man.
Stands up, takes the
Oh, this is just my other leg. This is my crutch right here.
Right, like that's. I remember even as a kid, I was like, "Hold on,
something ain't right."
There was a tattoo on the side that said "Imans,"
or said "Welcome aboard" on the other one.
I loved him and his wife; they were cool. But no, anyway, this movie, like goblins and monsters. You said this was horror adjacent. Yes, God, aside from puppets, the one thing I love more than puppets is puppet monsters. Like they're just so perfectly done. And this is crafted by the master himself. And golly, what a treat this film was for me as a kid.
Yeah,
I'll eat up anything Henson.
Yeah. Huge Henson guy over here, so I'm all about like Farscape and the Muppets, and then we get talking about like this, and then next week on Dark Crystal, I will be glowing like a champ because that was the one that stood out the most for me of these two back then.
Oh, but when a crab says, "Show me your titties," you get all upset.
Yeah. I did not choose Happy Time Murders. That was a Kevin call. But
sometimes I dislike our viewers.
Yeah, and then we lose like 10 subscribers in a day because of that. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not. You never are. We gotta pull on a guest here to help pull us back up out of the bog of stench, Kevin.
Touche.
I could take y'all through my backyard. I've got a Great Dane, and it's pretty close.
Well,
I believe it.
Go.
My dog's like, my poop don't do. Anyway.
Anywho, let's get into the good. Definitely going to be talking about the puppetry is pretty awesome, even for back then in '86. Like they definitely took it a step above and beyond the puppetry. And yes, we'll get into everything else, but this is the thing that stood out most for me. It was all the animatronics, everything they did with the puppetry. Like they really had to shoot around quite a bit, and there's at times you still have the old like visual effects where they had to clip it out, like for the little worm that goes hello, and you see the different colored brick, and it's just kind of imposed on there. It's like I miss the charm of things like that, so that totally worked for me, and I really enjoy the puppetry a lot because it really shows their skill level, and then being able to make that work in a larger context of a movie like this. So definitely love that part. I'm also going to say I really like the acting in this. Jennifer Connelly, lady, you proved you were a star at a very young age. And David Bowie, we could have used more of you in film. Yeah. Maybe not so much the lower half, but the upper half, absolutely.
Depends on what type of film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as he got to smoke, he probably wouldn't care. He's that kind of guy.
Wouldn't give a shit at all.
Yeah.
No.
No. One of the things that I remember about this movie was when I was 12, they showed it to us in 6th grade at the end of Greek mythology because they wanted to use it as an example of the labyrinth and referred to Ludo as a minotaur. I was like, well, okay, sure, I could see it. Twist my eyes, cross them. I was like, yeah, all right. I mean, yeah, I guess he's supposed to be that. Yes, of course, the labyrinth is supposed to be that, but nah, this was something special and magical and unique of its own.
All I know is Ludo friend. That's all I know.
And Rock's friends, yes.
Rocks, yes.
Yep, all you gotta do is just growl loud enough and they'll show up in full force.
I've been practicing that for 39 years, man.
Got a call on the Rock?
Idaho Mike, I want to point out how correct you are, and that I don't think she's been prettier than any movie. Prettier than she was in this than in any other movie. Like she was truly an angel in this, and I fell in love with her. However, I found out today that she was 14 when they were filming it. So
14 when they made this movie.
Yeah,
it's so funny though, because you're right. Like as a kid, you're watching this, and you're like, oh my god, she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Then you become an adult, and you're like, she's fucking 14, man. Like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
It ain't okay.
Yeah, that's not all right at all. Like,
yeah,
Just
I don't watch
Dark City. That'll help change your mind about her as an older actress at that point.
I don't watch Interview with the Vampire being like, yeah, she was good back then too.
yeah, and I mean, for being a 14-year-old actress, she demolished this role, man. Like, she completely crushed this role. I don't. It's hard to look at her as a 14-year-old when you're watching this movie, because there's so much adult themed things that even she's going through.
Right.
And Bowie trying to, smash, and it's like, David, you might have a few lists you're gonna end up on and not be able to go by schools or parks, bro. You need to slow down a little bit.
He might have only been 17. We don't know.
Maybe in his mind.
Right.
1700.
Yeah.
Ish.
David Bowie's definitely an age is just a number guy in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Jareth.
Jared.
He wanted to name the kid that too. That was really funny. Maybe brother, Jareth.
Right.
Well, dude, Michael Jackson's kids are all named Prince Michael the First, Prince Michael the Second, Prince Michael the Third.
Can't go wrong.
Fish Stick, Paris.
Jeez.
Sorry.
You're not sorry. That's why you're on here. But no, David Bowie is another high standout here. The way Jennifer counterbalances him, he never overpowers the scenes. He actually shows he has some decent range. That's why I referenced it earlier. It would have been nice to see him in more roles after this, but if he was more focused on his musical career, acting ain't really going to do anything for him. But this will always be on his resume as I was in the Goblin King, and he could sing. He did most of the music himself. Like, he wrote the songs, and that's how you get somebody like that involved. By comparison to somebody like Sting in the Dune movie, who basically just stood there, looked jacked, and basically did nothing. You got David Bowie, who was actually very charming, very conniving, very manipulative in his role as the Goblin King. But he did it with such a charm and a whimsical nature to it that it kind of makes you feel like, man, I'm supposed to boo this guy. And then you see him as an adult being creepy, and it's like, yeah, I can boo this guy, but damn, that's smooth.
That's smooth. That snake turned into a scarf.
Yeah.
It was smooth.
Nah, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I actually really enjoyed the story and the references to Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz. And the movie basically pulls from each of these stories. And I like the Easter eggs at the beginning where they show the actual books of the fairy tales. And it's like, we're going to take you down a tale, a familiar tale but we're going to tell it to you in true Henson style and a little bit different than everything else. Because she ends up getting all the partners and everything as she goes along her journey. There's no yellow brick road, but there is a labyrinth you got to work through. And one of my favorite things about the movie is the fact that she and the other characters, despite being, puppets or in costumes, full regalia, like there is a great chemistry between all the characters. And I'm like, I would have to look up like everybody like who was actually in the outfits to know who they were. But I recognize Brian's voice as Hoggle or Harry or Hagrid or whatever you want to call him. It's Hoggle, but that's the running gag in this movie that just totally I got a kick out of. Nobody could say his name right ever until the very end.
Yeah.
Harkness, yeah. I wondered if you'd pick up on that one. Or if you always knew about
it. No, I liked him a lot, though. Hoggle was, I think he probably scared me a little bit the first time I saw it. I don't know why. Maybe because of there was like a mouth on his back while he was pissing. I don't know why. But like he always fascinated me after that. I love the character. If you watch the behind the scenes on the DVD, there's a segment where Brian's talking about how he can where he would come up with the voice for Hoggle and the different moans and like roll the eyes, and how it, like everyone else controlling the different functions of the face would have to like roll their hands along with his face, and he'd like just make a weird Hoggle noise and roll his eyes. It was neat to see how like exact and precise it was between hand, eyes, and voice, how they did the puppetry.
It's always amazing to see that with anything. You know what I mean? Like the amount of work that goes into practical puppetry. Like it's amazing to see it. Like you said, behind the scenes, watching all these moving parts that have to go perfectly at the right spot at the right time. It makes you appreciate a movie like this a little bit more. They were willing to put in the extra manpower, the extra work to make sure that they're putting out a good product and not trying to, over CGI and make it look like garbage.
Yeah. And they had, aside from Jim Henson was the best. He was the master. So he hired people that were the best. And the choreographer on this became world renowned, but not for being a puppeteer. It was crazy as hell. Check this out.
They even had like Lucas in on this part of the visual effects. They also did all the matte paintings for the background, like Kevin's background behind him. Like, oh my God, that's beautiful work. And they don't do matte paintings anymore these days. I would like it if they went back to it. You could accentuate it now with more modern CGI, but if the rumors are true, we might get some sort of a remake reboot on this, but save that for the bad.
Yeah, yeah. But anyhow, Cheryl McFadden was the director of choreography and puppet movement on this, and like the hat's got a tip to her.
Looks like her and David went to the same hairstylist too.
Yes, they did.
Same hairspray.
Mm-hmm.
Suave.
Very suave. But yeah, she, you guys obviously know she's uber famous.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Just to make sure everyone else at home knows, that's Dr. Crusher. Anyway, I always thought that was a kick when I was a kid. I was like, say, wait a second, is that...
Wait, was that Daedalus back there?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Dr. Crusher is Cheryl McFadden.
Oh, well, yeah, duh. You took the picture off before I could like scan the background. I'm always looking in the background on these things. I'm like, oh my God, that's rad.
I was just waiting for you to go, yeah, that is the joke.
You are the joke.
I know. Sir Didymus is just rad.
Sir Didymus. Did you need us?
Yeah. His whistle, where he purses up his top lip and you see his teeth as he's whistling, kills me every fucking time.
And the mighty steed Ambrosius.
Yes. It's also funny to be like, the little jokes in this movie to me that land so well. Like
Yeah.
even at the very beginning when you have that worm, like if she'd have gone that way, she'd have gone straight to the castle. Like just letting you know.
I
Like,
love that. I was dying. I never remembered that.
yeah, like it's just one of those moments. Obviously, I rewatched this in preparation, and you're watching it. You're just like they're pretty much just breaking the fourth wall there, just being like, yeah, we could have ended the movie just now. Should take it straight to the castle and be done. You know, like
Roll credits.
yeah, just and then like little things like that made me laugh as a kid that still make me laugh. Like when she's doing the lipstick arrows, and the guy comes up and he's like, and he's like yelling at her as he's turning. Like that shit makes me laugh every single time I watch this movie. Like just the gibberish yelling from these little people as they're trying to move the stones the wrong way. Like I love it so much. There's so much about this movie that I think is just so amazing.
Struck me as like little mini Ashes from Ash versus
Yes.
the Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, is that where they got that idea from? Because that movie Army of Darkness didn't come out quite yet. So
Yeah, the old medieval dead.
Medieval Dead.
big fans of that franchise over here. But one of my favorite things was all the doors and the gags, like the knockers. As an adult, I'm like, I can't unthink that joke for something else entirely.
Yeah.
But
Not in my middle age, no. What? Can't hear you.
But like the two guys, I tell the truth, he tells the lie. And I thought there was going to be, I completely forgot about that. So I didn't remember like what kind of steps she would have to take to figure out who's telling the truth. And Amy was watching with me, my wife, and she basically said, all she's got to do is stomp on one of their feet and say, are you in pain? And then do it to the other one. And the one that's telling the lie would obviously say no.
But I love how in that moment it's like, and I tell the truth, and the guy's like, oh, what a lie.
You sassy bitch.
It's just so good, man.
Did you guys get any feelings like if you're Monty Python fans about like any maybe sort of references in this at all? Because when I was watching this, I thought Daedalus reminded me of the knight from the Holy Grail. He was like,
I
you
can
shall
see
not
that
pass.
now that
I
you
must
say
ask
that.
you 3 questions.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, all things considered, Terry Jones did write the screenplay. So I mean that there may have been that, but I don't know. I want to say like the art, like you said, a lot of that reminds me of like Quest for the Holy Grail's artwork and stuff.
Right.
I know it's different, but it does remind me of that.
I love Holy Grail, but that's about the knowledge of my Monty Python is that. You know, I don't know anything
Same.
else. You know what I mean? Like, I got no problem admitting it. Like, it's just nothing. I didn't grow up with it. I never, you know.
Yeah.
I saw the Quest for the Holy Grail because I saw a commercial for it, and all it was a cardboard cutout of Jesus. Like, you need to watch this movie. With the mouth. I was like, deal, cardboard Jesus. I'm in. You know, like, so, like, and then I watched it. I thought it was brilliant, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna watch some more of this. And then I just got high and forgot.
Well, that's the way you go.
All
Just
I
ask
could
Kevin.
I could think of this God absconding them for groveling. Stand up. So as I'm sorry and forgive me for this and forgive me for that.
Oh my God.
Bring out your dad.
Clang.
Bring out the dead. And is there anything else that stands out in this movie as something you absolutely adore or think it should be highlighted, Mr. Ken?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but you know, the score to this film, not just the
Right.
soundtrack. The soundtrack, obviously, great. You know, amazing soundtrack. But the score to this film enhances so much as well. And it's really hard to have that balance of an amazing soundtrack with an amazing score. And I think having someone with the amazing music ability of David Bowie to focus on the soundtrack really gave a lot of help to the people that were working on the score, knowing he's got this. You know, we'll let him focus on that. We'll focus on us. So you had these people that were working diligently at their jobs, and it came out perfect. And the third act, you know, the stairs. That's something that as a kid
Yes.
mesmerizing, man. Like when they're going, when he's singing your eyes can be so cruel, and he throws the crystal and it bounces on the stairs, and oh man, Toby! Like, it just, as a kid, I was like, I want to walk upside down on stairs. Didn't turn out well, but it looked really cool in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I was gonna add to the good section too, was like just the overall editing on this movie is like beyond incredible. Like, to even piece that third act together with all the stairs and keeping that at least somewhat coherent and consistent, because you could easily get lost and be like, hey, I actually had like 5 different problems with 2 different cuts, and just clipped out this, that, and the other. And I'm just like raving about like, oh my God, who edited this friggin' movie? And I'm like, dear God, that person should have gotten an Oscar.
Yeah.
Kevin, got anything else that's good?
Well, I mean, the soundtrack itself, like you said, yeah, the soundtrack is amazing. It's hard to pick a favorite song. It really is. Just kind of like it's hard to pick a favorite scene. It's hard to pick a favorite character. Like this movie is just so iconic for me. Like there's a little bit of everything. Like, you like fairies, that's in here. There's goblins, that's in here. There's gnomes, that's in here. Magic, that's in here. Like torturous
Pretty
devices.
boy king wizards.
Yeah, with ginormous schlongs and spandex, which were still early for the time. That's in here.
Tell the man to wear a cup.
No, it's already big.
Would have been easy target for a nut shot. Just saying.
If only if Sarah was used to stomping on toes and kicking balls, this movie could have been a whole lot shorter.
Puppy dog tails.
Roll credits.
Movie's over.
Oh God, I don't. It's really hard to pick like what's the most iconic to me. Like I said, the puppetry is stellar. I wished we would have gotten a sequel to this, not a remake. We'll get into that next segment. I love this universe. I wish it would have gotten more literature than what it did. I wish it would have gotten more of a great review that it did than it did in the theaters. It did not do well. Like, I'm surprised I got to see it. I'm very thankful that I did.
Right on.
Well, they could have done a sequel like this, like a Return to Oz.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it could have been its own type of story.
I think
it
still take place.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would have worked really, really well. But like you said, studios were scared to touch this. To them, this was box office poison when it came out.
Right.
We all talk about how great it is now, but this was one of those movies that really got its footing on, VHS at, local video stores and stuff like that. That's where this movie really picked up its footing, was once it came out on video and the word of mouth started spreading around. That's what really, made this start cooking. Like, I grew up in a video store. My mom and dad owned a mom and pop video store called Downtown Video.
Cool.
And you would see that. You would see the movies that would come in, and you would start to understand where word of mouth would start to happen with people. You would see the same movie leaving every day, and you're like, never even heard of this movie. Now everybody's renting it. We can't keep it on the shelves. So that's, back then, that was social media,
Giant clamshell cases. I mean, that's what I remember myself, because honestly, none of my friends that I grew up with at that time were into this at all. It was, okay, what's coming out in 86? Transformers the movie? Yeah, I was at the theater for that. I remember that specifically. Like, something like this kind of flew over our heads in my little podunk town in Wisconsin where I grew up at. So it's like, oh well, just stick to G.I. Joe and the usuals. And from what I gather, let's see, budget was about 25 million. Box office was 34 million that year. So it did okay.
Right. It is said, after you're paying everybody, it essentially broke even.
Yeah.
So for them to be like, we got David Bowie on, this big, well-known name, and it only did 34 million, leave it alone. Kind of like Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus bombed in the box office.
Yeah.
And then, it took them 20 years, and they were like, you know what, let's do a sequel now. So sometimes it
Disney
takes.
Plus, we need our content, baby.
Yep.
Content. Yeah.
Yeah, the only way I could see them doing anything now is if they were going back to Jennifer and bringing back the little brother, and now their own kids have to deal with the Goblin King. But you then have to recast, and it's like, who's on the level of David Bowie these days, legitimately? That's a singer that can actually pull this role off. I can't think of anybody. So
I just need to see how they look in spandex before I make a decision.
good point.
It's true.
All right, Kevin, got to talk about the bad with this movie.
All right, let me find it. The MC Escher room.
Love
Sorry,
that.
I just needed to pick a bad guy picture. That was what I had.
Bad hair day.
Because I don't believe this movie is bad. I don't believe there's any bad to it. Like it's a classic to me. Like this is one of those movies where, like, if I turn it on, it's on from like start to finish until I decide to get up and go. Like, my kids don't come in and change it. My daughter will like start to watch it, start to fuck around with her tablet, and then when she comes back in, I'm seeing that she's watching it on her tablet. I'm like, oh, you little shit. So like she'll watch it. But like there's no bad to this. I love it.
I got to go with Jareth being a huge creep. Like I said, as a kid, that didn't land with me, but as an adult, I'm like, oh man, like she's a little girl, bro. Like that to me is super creepy. I don't know, like you said, it's very hard for me to come out and be like, this is a very bad part of this movie. Because I'm with you. This movie, like, I don't know if it's nostalgia or what it is, but this movie is so special to me, and I adore it. So I think the problem is where I loved it so much as a kid, it's hard for me to remove those goggles and watch it with an open mind as an adult. It's kind of like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I think Pee-wee's Big Adventure is perfect. I've been on record many times saying it's the only perfect movie. And nobody agrees. And I'm like, well, what are you guys not seeing that I am? And I think it's that nostalgia of watching it as a kid. And I don't know, like there's the only thing and I'm reaching, because it's part of the plot, obviously, but just how much of a creep he is as an adult man watching him with, a 14-year-old daughter, I'm like,
Where's her father?
This movie also gave me an abnormal fear of peaches.
I thought it was a nectarine.
Close enough.
It
I've always looked at it as a peach, but like when you see it after it's bitten, I was like, no, I'm never eating those. That's fucked. I don't care if they're in a can put there by a man in the factory downtown. I have no desire to ever eat one of these again.
That would have been funny if they would have done something else. Big Rod. Ugh. That should have been the nickname for Bowie in this movie.
Yeah.
For me, as somebody who's not really tied to the nostalgia with this movie terribly, the only thing I would really talk about at all is, other than one little nitpick of, boy, that baby was certainly crawling and running around those stairs with like not a care in the world and moving. She couldn't catch up to him. But I liked how the resolution was, you know what? I'm not playing this puzzle. I'm just going to break the level. And I like how it ended up devolving into like a multi-stage boss fight out of a video game. Yeah. So it felt like you were building up to that. And I'm like, I kind of dig that. So little nitpick about baby brother there. But in general, I would say maybe not everything ages the best in this, because you brought it up. Jareth is just, he's a bit creepy when we're looking at it as adults. But nobody's going to make a movie like that these days. They'd have to completely change his character around to make him not so creepy. But back in the 80s, movies like this were pretty par for the course. And I don't mean like carbon copies of this. I just mean general morality, sensibilities. The movie really gets into maturity and growth as a teenager, trying to find your independence, but also understanding the love and the family that you do have, not trying to get rid of them, not feel like you're being held back. So there's a lot of like very important themes that I think, if anything, back then the movie had a little identity problem as far as like not so much with the movie, but targeting its audience. Who are you marketing this for? Is this for the whole family, or is this more for teens and young kids? But, of course, they ended up getting some sort of an audience developed over time in home video and over the years. And I can't really like say anything is terrible about this movie. I actually like the running time. It's like an hour and 40 minutes ish. I would have thought this was like an hour and a half. And I would love to know if they ever had any more deleted scenes, because I think this could have worked as a 2-hour movie, honestly.
Yeah. It definitely keeps your attention for that long because
it doesn't feel an hour 40.
Right. And you get the buildup of all the different monsters throughout, like the fire gang and like there's all these different areas that you're going through to where it makes it not boring, like, oh, man, I love it. When he throws the crystal and it turns into the truck with the, like that whole sequence, there's so many parts of this movie that complement other parts that keep it. There's not really a boring, dull moment. Maybe when she falls asleep with the trash lady and ends up at the ballerina ball or whatever, like at that point, you're like, what the hell are we kind of doing here? But you're still like that song they're doing at that moment. You're like, all right, a David Bowie music video right in the middle of the movie. I can handle that.
That's the only reason why I won't give it the cheer up Charlie moment of this movie. Otherwise, yes, it does kind of slow the movie down to a crawl.
Dance, magic, dance.
Yeah. You remind me of the Babe.
I like that one. And God damn it, they're gonna trying to remake this thing, bringing it up again. That'd be my one big bad is please just leave the movie alone.
Just don't.
It doesn't need it. It really doesn't. I'd only remake movies that obviously were big whiffs back when they came out. This wasn't a big miss or a whiff.
No.
So.
And especially because at this point, it's gained such a cult following. If you're going to do anything, go the Beetlejuice route, go the Hocus Pocus route, do a requel. But even then, you don't have Bowie anymore. Right. So, like, let a sleeping dog lie with this one. Beetlejuice worked because of Keaton and Ryder. Hocus Pocus worked because we had our witches back. Doing something like that now without Bowie just feels wrong. Like it doesn't feel just like The Crow this year. They tried to remake The Crow. I was all on board with it, until I found out that they were doing the same story. And it's like, no, Eric Draven's already been done. We don't have to do Eric Draven again. And The Crow can visit anybody. It doesn't have to be Eric Draven. And I think that was the ultimate disrespect in the newest Crow movie was, Brandon Lee was Eric Draven, and he should have been Eric Draven, and that's it. You could have made anybody be visited by the Crow. You did not have to bring Eric Draven back into the story. And that's where my big fear of a Labyrinth requel, a Labyrinth remake. I don't care who you get. It could be the most perfect casting choice, and all you're going to hear is it's not David Bowie. Just like Jackie Earle Haley with Freddy Krueger. That's the biggest thing. That's not Robert Englund. It's not Robert Englund. That's the biggest thing. That's why another reason why that movie didn't do so well. And a garbage script. But the biggest
that's my point on that one.
The biggest gripe people had was that's not my Freddy. That's not my Freddy. Freddy's not Michael Myers or Jason where you can put anybody under the mask. Same thing with Jareth. Jareth is Bowie. So to try to remake or redo this movie now, I don't see a point. I don't see where you're going to excel. I think it is. They're doing it as a cash grab to work on nostalgia, and they should have learned from the last couple of movies that they tried doing that with. Exorcist Believer being a big one that pops up right away is it's not always going to work. People aren't going to want to see a new Jareth.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see it working. I could be dead wrong. I thought Heath Ledger would be a garbage Joker. There's been times in my life I was wrong, but I don't see this being one of those times where it could be as successful as the original and people are going to want to go and see it as much.
Yeah, you can't even call on Duncan, his kid, who's an actual filmmaker, and have him come in because he has nothing to do with any of the musical side. So
Right.
it's like you couldn't even do that. That wouldn't even work.
Honestly, I would omit Jareth altogether. Mention him, a legendary terror from years before, and then but take the route that the Oz sequels have taken. Look at the Gnome King. There was no mention of the Wicked Witch. There was a new force in that universe, and there could be a new force in this universe that's just as terrible, or now terrible, almost as terrible as Jareth. Something, but it doesn't have to be him. But they'll make it him because that's just what they do.
The other big thing is, what are the odds they're going to stay with practical puppetry now?
Not good. Not
You know what I
good.
mean?
If
That's
they
another
can't
fear
have the
that I have
fucking
with them.
Mandalorian not be regular puppetry, then no, they're not gonna. Yeah,
You know, like that's another thing. Like if you were going to hand this off to like maybe some indie darling, then I think that maybe possibly we would be able to get some type of practical puppetry to come back into it.
Right.
But the odds of that happening now, we're going to have CGI up the ass. It's a fear of mine to see this movie remade. It's like Back to the Future. Don't do it. Jaws.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You know, these are movies that don't need that. They have their place in time.
if Grant Bachoco wasn't involved, I'd be worried, because like he's one of those puppeteers that is so goddamn good and so professional that like you'd want him on your project just to show that it's got that level of quality.
Right.
If you don't have people like Grant or like Eric Kuska or like Brian himself, golly, it's not going to do well in general. The CGI characters, it doesn't matter how cool they look. It's not going to have that same sincerity. It's not going to have that same feel to it.
I think the only positive to them doing a remake, and I say this with every remake, it will turn a younger audience onto the original that maybe have never seen it.
Maybe.
So they'll go back and watch the original. If they go see the remake and they like it, like sales on Halloween 1978 spiked like 400% the year in 2018 when Halloween 2018 came out, because people went back and rewatched the original. So I think that something like that could happen, and I think that would be a positive to bring a younger audience or an ignorant audience that had never seen this film into this, and bring them into the world of Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's me fishing for positives of what could possibly happen.
No, that's pretty fair. I don't know. I don't want him to do it. I just don't do it. That's all I can say. I just don't see any good way to wrap around anything that they could potentially do. Like what we got with like Age of Resistance for the Dark Crystal being a TV show that's based off of existing books and stories. This is not. And I know we do have a comment in here about something that could be done, is have it be the Labyrinth that itself creates these situations. It has a life of its own. That's an interesting take, but I would have that go to Ken's point. Have it be an indie darling director, please.
Yes.
Because if you want to bring somebody up in this world and have into the world of Hollywood and filming, that's the way I would go.
Studios won't do that, and they won't keep their fingers out of the shit.
Right.
Well, this is a Henson movie,
so they might get a cheap ass director then.
Yeah. Because this is not a Disney movie.
Oh, right. That's true. That's true.
It's Sony, but Henson owns the rights. As Matt brought to our attention on the last one.
Well, that's cool, though, because if he owns the rights and that estate owns the rights, they're probably not going to let it go for a piece of shit.
No.
It's not like they're starving for cash, Well,
so, yeah, and if Brian's insistent on something, then I would lean into they got at least a good idea. Right. But not everything can be a good idea like Happy Time Murders. That didn't turn out the best. If you did Labyrinth, that'd be the next movie in the Henson alternative line.
Right.
Happy Time Murders was funny. Wasn't good. It was funny.
All right. That being said, I think we've circled around the drain of the bad. Let's go on in and judge this thing. I'm gonna do
All right.
scores and tell everybody how you feel about it. Ken, we're gonna go with you first.
What's our ranking scale?
1 to 10.
1 to 10. I'll give this an 8. Um, I'm probably being overly critical by giving it an 8, but I'm trying to look at it through a realistic lens. Some things could have been better, but overall, they don't make movies like this anymore with the amount of love and care that go into every aspect of the film, from costume design to score to soundtrack to puppetry, character development. I mean, you're actively rooting for Hoggle, like actively rooting for that guy. I mean, I remember as a kid being like, are him and her gonna get together at the end? Like,
Is she gonna kiss him and he actually turns into a real human
Right.
being?
right. So like there was so many moments in this movie as a kid where I felt like that. But man, this is a movie that if this movie's ever on, I'll never turn. I think it's a special movie, and we had a musician play a role in a movie where and like you said, this is not a one and done, but Bowie didn't do half as much in entertainment film wise as we would have liked to have seen, and this proves it. And for him to do everything he did on the soundtrack, act the way he did, put his heart and soul into this movie, it's a movie that still to this day, I think it still holds up. My girls love when they meet the fire gang and they chili down, and how come her head don't come off? There's moments like that we still laugh about. Running on the farts in the bog of eternal stench, the moments that I laughed at as a 6-year-old boy, I still laugh at now. When they do the running on the rocks and it's the quick farts, the shit like that. And I love the fact that yes, it's a family friendly movie, but this has a little bit of everything. It's a love story. It is horror adjacent, like I said. The missing child story. It's adventure. There's action. There's mystery. There's a little bit of everything to go along with this movie, and it's wrapped up with some of the greatest puppeteer work ever. So yeah, my final, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10.
There you go. Kevin?
Oh, golly. My heart's wanting to say a 10, like a perfect 10. Like there's just no bad to this movie other than the baby. The baby wasn't an actor, but what do you want? Like that's
Oscar from Ghostbusters too. That ain't happening.
They had 2 babies at that point. So
I know.
No, gosh, this is pretty much a perfect movie for me. Like looking back on it, I'm going to let my nostalgia goggles just work. They're comfortable.
Okay. Me, I'm probably going to go about 8.5 to 9. Largely because this wasn't one of those movies that rang true for me as a kid, and I only watched it a couple times growing up and throughout the years. But watching it again, I ain't gonna lie. After I watched it with Amy, I watched this movie 2 more times trying to take notes, and I wasn't able to take notes every time because I kept getting wrapped up into the movie. So
Yeah.
It's still a very engrossing movie. I just think some things maybe don't age the best, but that's more for like modern sensibilities and things.
Okay, that one line. The gibberish line. The gibberish line is a homophobic slur.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Your mother was an F aardvark.
I never even understood. I never got that.
Yep.
I didn't even know what the hell you were talking about till you explained it.
Yep, your mother was an aardvark. It was like, oh shit, you can't say that. Sorry, so that one bad part.
Yeah, but I love how it basically culminates in like a little bit of a boss battle video game style where she breaks the labyrinth. She finally understands, what Jareth is to her as a source of control, her maturity. I love the stories. I love the themes. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to go more on the 9. I just wish I could know if there was a little bit more to it, but I think all the work is impeccable on this, from the editing, from Mr. Grover to basically all the performances, puppetry, like we've talked about. I love the matte paintings that Lucasfilm did. George Lucas's name is on this film, everybody. So he didn't have too much to do with it, but he did partake in this movie. So I got to give points, and I enjoy this movie. I'm proud this is in my collection. I just wish I could maybe afford like the very nice editions for my wife that came out from Shout Factory, but they're like close to $300. So forget that.
Yep. That ball's got to pivot itself on my hand for $300.
That was super fun. I love Bowie doing that with the different orbs and everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
That could not have been easy.
Yeah, the shuffle.
Unless that's a trick. He was like, I could do this.
It was a trick. Yes. It was not him. It was somebody else behind his cape, putting his arm out and doing the trick underneath Bowie's armpit.
I think we call that the reach round, Kevin.
Giggity.
Guys, got any last thoughts before we say goodbye to everybody?
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
No.
Didn't you have a video?
Yeah, but it's boring. It's up to you. We might lose people.
Okay, forget it.
Forget
You're
it.
fired.
No, I've got a video for tomorrow night that's a little bit more entertaining. But
Okay.
the video will get put up on our website. I have a new VR video that's going to have basically walkabout mini golf. They have a whole 9 or 18 holes that's Labyrinth. And it's golf. So it's slow and it's boring. And I swear a lot because I don't golf. And my kid comes in and tells me, "You're not very good at this."
You're grounded.
You got busted by your kid.
You little bitch, I know that. And meanwhile, like I'm saying, I've got a VR helmet the entire time and not seeing my kid like up in the fucking camera looking at you and shit. But yeah, you get to see Hoggle up close. You get to see Sir Didymus up close. There's a point where I get up close and look at the little caterpillar going, "Hello," and he's got a cup of tea for you.
Hello.
Yeah, it's pretty darn cool. So we'll have the link for that and check it out.
Yep. And anybody who wants to see this movie, it is available on Plex, Pluto, Tubi. It's available across many of the other ones for rentals, but those are the good places for going to watch this for free if you want to check it out. And also recommend putting this into your collection. Now, before we say goodbye to everybody, Ken, please tell everybody where they can find you, what you do, and what's up next.
Yeah, you guys can find us on YouTube at Sledgehammer Horror. Me and my wife, or my wife and I, we do videos. We do horror reviews. Ashley does Villain of the Month once a month. She picks a villain and does a deep dive into them. We also do segments, Didn't See That Coming, where we talk about movies with twist endings, versus where we verse an original versus a remake. Top 10 videos, and then once a week we do a live stream with various guests just doing different things. So come on and check us out and follow us on social media everywhere at Sledgehammer Horror, except for Twitter/X. You can find us at Sledgehammer Horror, HOR.
Right on. And Kevin, where can people find you at?
You can find me right here all week long on the Sons and Shadows not the Sons and Shadows Facebook page. I mean, you can find me there. I'm usually there.
He's somewhere.
God damn it. You do this to me every fucking week. Right here on the YouTube channel. Yeah. On 0-Point Reviews, on Nostalgia TV, The Graveyard Shift of Forgotten Television Shows, and every Saturday night on Deadwire Live.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please go check out Sledgehammer Horror. Totally cool dude. Great content. Can't recommend it any higher. Love going and checking out their streams and work myself. So please hit that like button on the way out and subscribe down below. And when you do, hit the little bell notification so you can stay tuned to all of our video content. And we will see you all on Dark Crystal next week, next time.
They will take you into a dazzling world of fantasy and adventure.